What's up guys? Today we finally look at another episode of my Zero project, but first a short recap. As always, I started in the cockpit, painted it and created weathering effects. I also assembled and painted the 3D printed engine. It's a very nice addition. If you are interested in details, check out the previous video. But now sit back, grab something tasty and let's begin. Alright, I'm starting on the wing. There are holes in the gear bay that can be opened. I make the holes with the small drill bits. The dust effectively dissolves using glue. The aircraft will be part of a diorama, so I want to open the gun base. But first I need to modify the original parts. I have to cut out these panels. The flaps will also be removed as they will be in the open position. I need to bend the flaps and then glue them together from several pieces. The wheel bay has pretty details, but I want to enhance it further. For now, I'm preparing holes for wires and hoses. This is the preparation of the surface for painting with a coat of primer, so next layers adhere well. This is especially important for the PE parts. I will apply a glossy base coat to the inner parts before adding the metallic paint. This will make it shine nicely. To highlight the details, I am applying a dark wash. Next, the cannons and machine guns. I used a dark grey as the base, applied a dark wash and highlighted the details with a soft graphite pencil. Time to close up the wing. The parts fit perfectly. Just apply some thin glue to the joint. Be careful with your fingers, we don't want to destroy the fine surface. According to the reference images, I'm adding details to the gear bay. The thin plastic fibers are from a sprue heated over a flame. Next up is the fuselage. This early version of the Zero didn't have a tailhook. The kit shares the fuselage with the naval version, so I must fill this opening. I'll use 2-component putty, which works well for this purpose, and later I'm gonna fine-tune the surface. I'm using a wooden toothpick and water to smooth it out. Now I'm creating holes on the sides of the fuselage where I'll later insert the pilot steps and handles. I want to display them in the open position. I create flat openings using sharp chisels. I slowly remove the plastic until I reach the desired depth. It's important to proceed very carefully. Thin glue will again take care of the remaining dust. In some parts of the model, the details are blurred. That's no problem. I'll fix the rivets with a sharp needle. Here you can see the rivets before and after the repair. I'm doing this intentionally before applying the putty, so I don't lose them. The horizontal stabilizer will be glued in the downward position. Therefore, I need to create some visible internal structure, once again, using small drill bits. Another simple modification is in the cockpit. I decided to drill out these 2 holes. If I'm not mistaken, their purpose is to allow more light onto the instrument panel. It's time to join the fuselage and wings. Everything fits into place with a satisfying click. The pilot's headrest was made of leather. I'll try to mimic this appearance using acrylic paints. I'm applying them heavily diluted in several layers to create a gradient effect. Worn areas are depicted with a lighter shade. The cockpit's gun side had a thick glass, which I replaced with a thin film. It's painted to match the rest of the cockpit. The overlapping panels on the fuselage do not have a sharp enough edge, therefore I decided to respray it with a thick layer of primer. Before painting, the model needs to be carefully cleaned. Although I've been wearing gloves the whole time, I wipe the entire model with isopropyl alcohol. This removes any grease and dust. start painting. As always, I begin with a black primer. Next is the main color. Although MRP paints are thinned in the bottle, I thin them even more. I like to apply them in thin layers. In this way, I gradually cover the entire model. One shade is boring, so I spray the panel centers with a lightened base color. In this case, I added white. I'm trying to create an irregular pattern. It doesn't need to be precise. We'll adjust it further. In the next step, I highlight the panel lines and rivet rows using the base paint. Now I will spray the entire surface with several layers of base color. It's heavily diluted, so it's almost transparent. I create thin layers until I'm satisfied. Be careful not to cover up previous work. The reference I chose has wings extending outward from the middle and a tail in a slightly lighter shade. I had to highlight the panel lines and rivet rows once again because they faded a bit. I used the same method as before. The control surfaces are painted in a different shade. And this is what the surface looks like after painting. I apply a layer of gloss varnish over the entire model. It will protect the previous work and serve as a good base for the decals. The Eduard decals work great. Just soak them in water for 10 seconds. Once they move nicely on the paper, they are ready to use. I apply a decal set under the decals. Excess liquid is removed with a cotton swab. After drying, I apply a decal fix on top. This product softens the decals and helps them conform well to the surface. I follow the same procedure with the small decals as well. To be sure, I cut the panel lines with a sharp knife. It's also necessary to punch out some of the rivets. Then one more layer of decal fix. The advantage of these decals is the top coat can be peeled off after drying. However, the condition is they must be really well set, otherwise we might tear them off along with the top coat. Right after, they need to be covered with a layer of gloss varnish. Next, weathering. I mixed my own wash from MO oil paints. It highlights the panel lines and rivets. I apply it in the entire model with a brush. After about 30 minutes, I started wiping the excess with a paper towel. To unify the surface, I apply a matte varnish. I spray it in thin layers, carefully monitoring the level of sheen. Finally, I can remove the masks. This moment always makes me a bit nervous. Luckily, there were no issues. I stuffed plenty of foam into the cavities just to be sure, preventing paint from getting where it shouldn't. Zeros were painted with very durable paints from the factory, so they didn't chip much. However, in the areas where the crew moved around, some scratches would appear. I'm depicting these scratches down to the primer using acrylic paint. The primer itself was even more resilient. There are many photos of wrecks long after the war where the primer is still intact. Therefore, I want to avoid scratches down to the metal. The paint is applied by stippling to create the tiniest possible scratches. If I don't like some of them, I remove them with a wooden toothpick. I use a bit of white oil paint to create irregular patterns on the decals. A good trick is to use an airbrush to speed up the drying process. Finally, I blend the effect with a cotton swab. The model is still too clean. After this step, it won't be anymore. I want to create the appearance of an aircraft that's been in service for a while. To simulate dirt and grime, I spray a highly thinned mix of brown and black paint. I use a small nozzle and low pressure. The paint is so thin that the effects must be built up layer by layer. This is great because it allows for better control. The Zero's engine produced characteristic streaks on the fuselage during operation. I replicated these using oil paint. Similarly, I apply paint around the fuel tank filler caps. I use the same mix of brown and black to create exhaust stains. I chose to swap out the existing wheels with a set of higher quality wheels from the present collection. It wouldn't be complete without the brake lines. Light wire works perfectly for this. It's soft and bends easily. I didn't want to mask the chrome parts. so I painted the legs with a brush. The dirt is applied similarly to the rest of the model. Don't forget to add a bit of oil to the shock absorbers. The kit also includes wheel masks. I'm adding a fuel streaks to the fuel tank using oil paints. Next up is the propeller. Since it's metallic, I want it to have a nice shine. I apply the metallic paint carefully, wanting to make the most of the glossy base. A thick layer could ruin the shine. The backside of the propeller was painted with a special anti-glare paint to prevent blinding the pilot. To achieve the correct appearance, I apply a matte varnish on top. It seems to me that the safety stripes are too close together. That's why I decided to spray them on instead. I'm using oil paints to highlight the details and break up the surface so it doesn't look boring. Now I need to assemble all the remaining parts together. The handles are made from a needle. I cut them to required length, painted them and glued them in place. And that's all for today. Again, thank you to everyone who watched till the end. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. A huge thanks to my Patreons. You are amazing. If you'd like to support me too, check out the link in the description. You'll find almost daily updates from the workbench, ad-free videos and much more. In the next episode, I'll take a look at another component of the diorama, the Type 95 vehicle. It will be a bit of change from the aircraft and I can't wait. See you in the next one.